So today I've got a new idea, a new series that might feature on the channel. If it goes well, you can let me know if you like this in the comments below. Essentially what this is going to be is we're going to take a UFC weight class today. We are picking the UFC's lightweight weight class. At one point in time, this was the best division in the UFC, bar none. This was my favourite division in the UFC with the names that were in it and the matchups that could be made. But slowly, this is becoming one of the worst divisions in the UFC. I'm just going to be honest with the amount of recycled matchups. But what this is going to be is we're going to look at the champion of the division, which is Islam Makhachev. We're then going to look at the champion's toughest matchups, in my opinion. Then we're going to look at two overrated fighters currently in the rankings in that division, two underrated fighters currently in the rankings of that division, and two prospects that I think you need to keep an eye out on. Fuck. Two prospects that I think you need to keep an eye out on and who I think are going to potentially be a champion or title challengers, top 5 ranking guys. So obviously, as we all know, Islam Makhachev, the point for point number 1 right now in the UFC. He is the lightweight champion. Let's get right into who I think his toughest matchups are in the UFC's lightweight division. Starting off, Arman Tsarukyan. This is an obvious one. This guy's clearly the number 1 contender right now in the UFC's lightweight division. I understand the guy did balls up UFC 311 by pulling out injured. I understand. So I understand Dana White's frustration and the rest of the UFC's frustration with the guy. But if not him, who else do you give this title shot to? Because I tell you one thing. Justin fucking Gaethje doesn't deserve it. The fact that this is even being spoken about is driving me insane. Outside of beating the number 11th ranked UFC lightweight on short notice, what has Justin Gaethje done in recent memory to get this title fight? Because the fight before the Fiziev matchup, which again, it wasn't just a complete whitewash, it was very, very close. The fight before that, I'm pretty sure if I recall correctly at UFC 300, Gaethje was face down dribbling on the mat after Max Holloway KO'd him. So, this guy's the number 1 contender. He deserves to fight for the belt next. He beat Charles Oliveira at UFC 300, clearly. Yes, I'm going to say that again. Go back and watch the matchup. Try not to be biased towards Charles Oliveira. I wanted Oliveira to win as well. I'm a big Oliveira fan. But Arman Tsarukyan did win that matchup. He really did. And then before that, he knocked out Beneil Dariush, a great win. He's also beat the likes of Joel Alvarez. He beat Joaquin Silva. He's also been in there with Islam Makhachev as well. That was his UFC debut that he took on short notice. And that was a competitive fight for those who remember. I think it's just the matchup that has to be made next, in my opinion. I think he is very well rounded. He has really developed from the Islam Makhachev first fight. Obviously, Islam is also very developed. I'm going to be honest, I would pick Islam to beat him. I really would. I think Islam Makhachev will beat him. I think he's just too good for Arman Tsarukyan, to be honest. But the guy's earned it. The guy's very well rounded. And I think he can give Islam problems. I think he's a really tough test for Islam. The guy can strike, the guy can grapple. It's just a fun fight and one that I want to see. Moving on, we've got Ilia Topuria. Look, I might be the biggest Ilya Glazer of all time. I'm just gonna tell you this now. This is factual, non-negotiable information. Ilia Topuria will knock out Islam Makhachev inside 3 rounds. I feel it in my fingers. I feel it in my toes. I'm telling you right now, this guy's going to knock him out. I think Islam Makhachev striking defense, there's a lot to be desired for, especially when they are in boxing range. We've seen fucking Money Moicano expose that in their last matchup. Ilya, I know everyone knows him for his boxing. He's a big puncher, especially when he's going to close the distance against Islam. You know Islam's going to try and clinch with him, and Ilya does a really good job of going body, head, head, body. You know, he really mixes up his strikes. He's not a head hunter. He really mixes it up, and I can just see when, say, like, I just envision Islam getting like a tie clinch on him, and Ilya just ripping shots to the body, just ripping them. I think he knocks him out inside 3 rounds. I'm going to be brutally honest. Obviously, Islam is bigger than Ilya, and you've got the type of, you know, how good is Ilya's grappling. But Ilya came into the sport of MMA as a grappler. And the rumours are that he was out grappling these Dagestani guys when he used to train with them. So I'm going to back Ilia Topuria. I think he beats Islam. I think he is Islam's toughest test. I just put Arman there because I think Arman isn't getting the respect he deserves at the minute. But Ilia Topuria is definitely his toughest matchup. I think he actually is the one to beat Islam Makhachev, if anybody can. And that's not I mean, it is for certain because I've just told you that, and I do believe that, but Islam is that good. Right, we've got one more on who I think can give Islam the toughest test, and hear me out, please. This might be next level cope. Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway gives him a tough test, I really do. I think on the feet, Max Holloway's just volume. I think Max Holloway will do a good job of putting Islam Makhachev on the back foot. Do I think Max Holloway can potentially be out-grappled by Islam Makhachev? Yes, but I think Max Holloway does have good takedown defense. Obviously, we just seen him be taken down by Ilia Topuria, but he does have good takedown defense. He does have good get-ups as well. I think that Islam's grappling potentially could be a bit much for Max Holloway, but I think Max Holloway on the feet, if Max Holloway could stuff Islam's takedowns and keep him on the feet, I think Max Holloway's striking style can cause Islam Makhachev a lot of problems. A lot of people are sleeping on Max Holloway now since the guy got KO'd by Ilia Topuria. Max Holloway is still elite. He's 33 years of age. He's been in there with the elite of the elite guys. I think he is going to challenge for the lightweight belt soon, honestly. He is currently the BMF champion, even though Ilia Topuria beat him. Doesn't make much sense. The BMF belt never made any sense anyway, but a rogue shout. I can understand if people won't agree with me on this one, but I think Max Holloway can give Islam Makhachev problems if he was to fight him. Moving on, we've got the two overrated guys in the rankings. A lot of people might not like this either because Dan Hooker is such a fan favourite fighter. This guy is overrated, let's just call it what it is. He didn't beat Gamrot at UFC 305. Go back and watch that matchup. He just didn't beat him. He just didn't beat him. He just didn't beat him. Okay? And then we look at that before. He beat Jalen Turner by split decision. I know he broke his arm in that, so that is impressive, but fucking Jalen Turner's now retired. You know what I mean? Bro got finished in his fights after that as well. Or no, I think he beat Bobby Green. And then did he get finished by Moicano and Bahamontes? I'm not too sure, but this win's kind of aged like milk, if we're being honest. And then when you look at the UFC's lightweight rankings, there's a lot of guys below Dan Hooker in the rankings that I think beat him, and there's everybody above him in the rankings beats him as well. You know what I mean? I just think he's overrated, to be honest. And let's just get this one out of the way right here. The next overrated guy is Michael Chandler. I've hit this desk so many times over this guy, I'm not going to do it again. Sorry. Michael Chandler. Where do we start with Michael Chandler? Fucking hell. How's the win over Dan Hooker is the only reason this guy isn't in the GFL and is still ranked in the UFC's lightweight division, because there is no other alternative. Because what else has he done? He beat Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson actually is in the fucking GFL. At the point Michael Chandler fought him, who hadn't beat Tony Ferguson? You know what I mean? His last fight against Oliveira, he looked ass. He got beat by Dustin Poirier as well. He actually had moments of success against Poirier but got submitted. He beat Tony. Then before that he lost to Justin Gaethje. Don't get me wrong, he's a very fun fighter, but how he's ranked number 7, I don't get. I really don't get. And the Dan Hooker win has really just saved his UFC career, in my opinion, because he has no other wins over any ranked opponent right now in the UFC. 0. And Dan Hooker doesn't even deserve to be that highly ranked, in my opinion. Both overrated. Let's move on to the underrated guys. Starting off with Gamrot. I think Gamrot is really underrated, to be honest. I think the guy's a good striker. The guy's a really good grappler as well. I think he's very well rounded. I think he was very hard done by when he was in there against Dan Hooker. Like I said, he clearly beat him. He's beat the likes of RDA. He beat Rafael Fiziev, although Fiziev did get injured in that matchup. And the big win that he has on his resume that no one actually really talks about is his win over Arman Tsarukyan. This guy beat Arman Tsarukyan, who is the number 1 contender right now, who's coming off a win over Charles Oliveira. I think Gamrot is really, really good. I think he's really well-rounded. He just doesn't get the respect he deserves, in my opinion. I don't know where he's been now. Like, the guy is 34 years of age. He's getting up there. And I think he's at least 2 wins away from a title shot, to be honest. I think he'd maybe need to beat the like of a Moicano maybe, and then maybe an Oliveira, and I think those are Moicano's a bit of a tough matchup for him, to be honest, but and so is Oliveira, but those are winnable matchups in my opinion for him. I actually think Gamrot is that good, I really do. Underrated. Next underrated guy is Beneil Dariush. Look, I will die on this hill. I think this guy's one of the most underrated lightweights of all time. And I used to sit there when I was so immature, bearing in mind this would have been last week, I had this same thought that this guy was washed, he was done for. But then after I seen Mauricio Ruffy call him out, I'm sitting there thinking, who are his recent losses to? I know he's been KO'd pretty early on. In fact, I think he was KO'd both times in the first round. Yeah. But he got KO'd by Arman Tsarukyan, the number one contender. And he got KO'd by Charles Oliveira, former lightweight champion, second in the UFC's lightweight division. So he hasn't been KO'd by bums. He's beat Gamrot. He beat Tony Ferguson. Again, in hindsight, not a great win. He beat Diego Ferreira, which I think is a really good win. He beat Drakkar Klose as well. Another really good win, in my opinion. I really rate Drakkar Klose, to be honest. I think Beneil Dariush... there was a point in time where this guy was meant to fight for the belt, I'm going to be honest, before he got that Oliveira matchup. He was very highly ranked in the UFC's lightweight division. The fact he's dropped down so far in the rankings... He is 35 years of age. I know you would think he's 70 by looking at him. I understand that. The guy does look like a pensioner, but great grappling, heavy-handed, is a bit chinny, don't get me wrong, but I think he's really underrated. Great scrambles as well. Beneil Dariush, underrated. I think there's still guys in the rankings above him and below him that he beats. I really do believe that. I think this guy's really underrated. And now we're going to get on to two prospects that I think you should keep an eye out for. Now, a lot of these ones, especially in this division anyway, they're kind of obvious. Starting off, we've got Joel Alvarez. Can you even call this guy a prospect anymore? I'm not sure, but I'm going to count it. Joel Alvarez, massive for the division. Very well-rounded, in my opinion. He's just coming off that like flying knee KO type thing over Drakkar Klose. Like I said, I rate Drakkar Klose highly. Great win. Elvis Brenner, great performance. He styled on him. Mark Jacasey, again, I thought that was another really good win. Obviously, he has lost twice. His first loss in the UFC was way back in 2019. I actually can't remember who he lost to, but I know his most recent loss in 2022, and that was the number one contender in Arman Tsarukyan. So he hasn't lost since then. It's not as if he's lost to bums. I really can't remember who he lost to in 2019. So this really might backfire. But the guy's on a 3-fight win streak. All three of those wins coming by finish right now. He's massive for the division. He can grapple. He can strike. I think he's really one to watch for. And he is fighting Benoit Saint-Denis at UFC. Is it 314? Might be 315. I'm unsure. But he's fighting Benoit Saint-Denis next. Do I think he can become champion? I think he can become a top 5 ranked UFC lightweight, to be honest. If he becomes a bit more active. Do I think he can become champion? I don't think so, to be honest. But definitely a top 5 talent guy right now in the UFC's lightweight division, in my opinion. And someone you definitely need to pay attention to. It's an obvious one. And finally, the last one. This is another obvious one. Bahamontes. I wanted to put Ludwig Klein on this one. Obviously, he did beat Bahamontes, but I feel like Bahamontes, since that fight, has done just better work. He's on a 3-fight win streak right now. All 3 of those wins have came by first round KO, I believe, yes. The Manuel Torres KO, I think that's a great win. Obviously coming off that win over Jalen Turner, which now makes him ranked, where he submitted Jalen Turner in the very first round. This guy's extremely heavy-handed. He's big for the division. Great striker. He can grapple. We just seen that he is dangerous off his back as well, because he kind of like... I don't want to say he pulled guard against Jalen Turner, but it was a very funny situation. He was landing big elbows off his back, and then was actively looking for the submission. I think this guy's dangerous. Also, when Bully B tells you that someone's going to be dangerous, Bilal Muhammad, aka Remember the Decision, you take note of these guys. I actually do think Bahamontes, I don't know if he can become champion, to be honest. I'm just going to be brutally honest. But again, I think this guy, skill-wise, could for sure be in the top 5 very soon. And he's young, he's only 27 years of age. So yeah, let me know what you thought of this style of video. I don't really know what I'm going to caption the video either, but let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. And as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you all again in the next one.